You really think a stick of deodorant can decide someone's worth? Then let them taste what it feels like to be looked down on. I laid out the bills, transfers, and lawyer letters on the table, letting them see the cost of trying to control us. No shouting, no public arguments, just cold, precise emails and canceled automatic payments. The school had records, the video evidence circulated among friends, and neighbors began murmuring about the so-called harmless jokes. When they turned back to find the door closed, phones blocked, and their excuses replaced by legal documents, their smiles first stiffened, then shattered into inescapable shame. Finally, it was Grandma's voice that choked, and Chelsea's hands began to tremble. They were speechless for the first time in front of others, left with nothing but regret. 3 days earlier, I had parked at the school gate, watching Zoe through the windshield, like a small deer ready to bolt. Grandma, Aunt Chelsea, and Dad stood in front of her, their smiles forced and perfect, like sculpted masks. Zoe gripped her backpack straps tightly, her face pale. Grandma reached out sweetly. "You know we mean no harm." I stepped forward, voice low but firm. "You're standing there to humiliate her. Don't pretend to be the savior." Chelsea raised an eyebrow, her heel tapping the ground. "Jenna, you really are too sensitive." Dad glanced at his watch. "It's just family business." Zoe's eyes darted between us, tense and trapped. I felt her fear slice into my chest. I would not allow this to happen again. From a young age, I knew I was never the center of our family. Chelsea shone effortlessly, blonde, eloquent, and always applauded. I hid in the shadows, cautious and quiet. Mom would say, "Loosen up." Dad would add, "She's just teasing." Their laughter fell like stones on my shoulders, crushing self-esteem. Birthdays with hidden gifts, ridicule at school, family gatherings. Each felt like a test I could never pass. On Zoe's 11th birthday, I watched her experience the same humiliation. Mom handed her a stick of deodorant labeled, "Use it to make friends." The room erupted in laughter. Paige pointed subtly, Lucas mimicked under his breath. Zoe's face froze, her eyes blank. In that moment, I knew I had to be stronger than I had ever been. After today, no one would ever hurt her again. I treated revenge like an engineering project. Checklists, deadlines, verifiable evidence. First, finances. Late at night at my computer, I reviewed 2 years of automatic transfers, marking every payment to my parents in red. I called the bank to stop all future automatic transfers, secured 3 confirmation numbers, and took screenshots. I converted our joint account into a new one under my name alone, requesting written confirmation be mailed to my address. Next came cards and bills. I canceled all joint credit cards with my parents, applied for new ones accessible only to Daniel and me. I canceled automatic payments for insurance, utilities, and internet, redirecting all bills to our personal or company accounts, leaving them no way to insert themselves under the guise of "I pay." Every step was meticulously documented: phone recordings, email receipts, bank confirmations, saved as PDFs, organized by date, printed in duplicate. One in the safe, one given to Kevin, our lawyer, with timestamps on the headers. The third step was public documentation. Party videos backed up to the cloud, organized with a timeline, shared with the school and community oversight groups if necessary. Incidents of harassment, threats, and calls were compiled into a timeline with evidence, submitted to both the school and lawyer. Everything was calm and legal. No slander, no privacy breaches, just turning their unspoken control into verifiable facts. The actions were quiet. Confirmation numbers flashed at night. Email receipts pinged in the early morning. But each move cut the invisible strings they had used to control us. Late at night, Daniel walked into the kitchen, seeing me typing. He raised an eyebrow. "Are you really doing this?" "Yes," I said calmly. My fingers danced over the keyboard. Every step protected our lives and our freedom. Daniel paused, shook his head, and returned to the bedroom. That night, I barely slept until all steps were complete, and the air finally felt clear. The birthday party still played in my mind. Streamers covered the living room, sugar and cake sent thick in the air, and the deodorant sat there with its mocking smile. Zoe forced a smile stiff as plastic. Children whispered and pointed, Paige subtly mocking, Lucas mimicking under his breath. Each movement pierced her tiny body like a needle. I gripped the plate in my hands, my blood boiling. At that moment I knew. This had to end. After the party, I held Zoe in her room. I know this is hard, but you're not wrong. They laughed so loud. I almost couldn't breathe, she whispered. I stroked her back. That's their problem, not yours. A few days later, the school notified me that Mom and Chelsea had cornered Zoe at the gate, pressuring her to admit she had ruined the family, trying to pull her back into their game. I drove there. The three adults' smiles were perfect, but each looked like a shackle. Zoe stood behind me, backpack half-slipped, fingers clutching the strap. I stepped forward. Don't come near her. Chelsea raised an eyebrow. We're just talking. No, you're teaching her guilt. Step away. My voice was calm, firm, uncompromising. Zoe gripped my hand. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. The three froze, smiles stiffening, breaths catching. The school intervened. I submitted a full report and contacted our lawyer, Kevin Chu. We drafted a formal cease and desist letter, copied to the school and Mom's email. Every line was precise and unassailable. Any further harassment will be considered a matter for school and legal authorities. Sending it released a weight I hadn't felt in years. The air was finally clean and light. Weeks later, Zoe came home from school, a determined smile on her face. Mom, I watched the video they posted and I didn't delete it. I blinked. What video? The one from my birthday party, the deodorant. I want everyone to see the truth about them. I looked into her eyes and felt power for the first time. Her small act of reclaiming her story was like a stone thrown into a lake, rippling outward, exposing the humiliation they had caused. By Christmas, Zoe and I celebrated our first truly quiet holiday. The house was full of lights and laughter, not tension or forced smiles. Zoe invited friends over to decorate the tree. She helped hang lights and ornaments, joking and discussing where to place decorations. When Lucas's younger brother accidentally dropped an ornament, Zoe crouched to pick it up and gently reassured him, "It's okay, we'll fix it." She laughed freely, naturally, without fear of ridicule. Every burst of laughter stitched the wounds of the past. Weeks later, Mom called again. I let the phone ring repeatedly before blocking her. Daniel smiled. "You've really made up your mind." "Yes," I said. "Peace comes in silence." Now Zoe's world was free from their laughter. She could grow up freely, smile without fear of being crushed. And I finally felt true victory. Not in the thrill of revenge, but in the power of protection and letting the aggressors face the consequences of their actions. Our home finally was ours.